What's up, and welcome to another exciting adventure of Ride the Rebellion podcast. I am your host, Drew Hall, and with me today is the king of the South Alabama Turndown, the only man to hit Rampage. That's not. The only man to turn down on Rampage. That's a busted jump at the Reb that we don't even talk about. Who's that? Oh, Morgan Scott. Anyway, it doesn't matter because here is Dale Boyd of Dale Boyd Sports Management.
And I did turn down on Rampage because I had to. Yeah. Like the only way to land and not die.
Welcome to the Huck to Flat Show. Today our special guest is Dale Boyd of Huck to Flat Enterprises.
That's a good one, actually. Huck to Flat's a good business.
I just said to Justina and launched us into a we couldn't stop laughing. I was like, don't you dare picker. Damn it. What'd I say? Pickle trigger?
Throw it to Justina in the other room.
No, I didn't say pickle envy. No, I said trigger. I definitely
don't trigger my pickle with envy.
No, it was more like you're causing pickle. You caused me to trigger a pickle. I don't know. It happened.
And with that, folks, let's send it on over to our sponsors, Man of War Tattoo, where you can get a pickle tattooed right on your elbow.
If you have pickle envy, head over to Man of War Tattoo and get your arm tatted up. Maybe a leg.
And if you do that, you'll show up to work and you'll be in a pickle.
There it is. And then if you have to leave work quickly, on foot, you might say, look no further than Run and Try for the shoes that will help you. We should have done a Halloween promo. Why didn't he do a Halloween promo with like you have all these people getting murdered and then it, right?
Okay.
And it keeps showing their shoes and they're busted. And then it cuts to someone, and Ted bought his shoes from Run and Try.
And he's the only survivor.
Or she, whatever.
Oh, man, that'd be great.
It'd be good.
It'd be good. I appreciate the Halloween reference, and I know Aaron will too because he's a huge Halloween fan.
The movie Halloween?
Maybe, but I know Halloween in general, the season.
I think you have to be a Halloween movie fan if you like Halloween.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so this is coming down off of a pretty big high with Toby hanging out with us. And that is, of course, we were happy that he was here because I screwed up all the posts. I had to fix them because we had Shred with Sloan on. I put it with Shred with Summit.
Whew, so many S's.
Yeah. But if you haven't, if you listen to that episode about Summit, you understand it. But basically, all the awesome stuff we said about Dirt Coaster Academy in the past. Man, I am wired. Dirt Coaster Academy in the past. All of that awesome stuff really applies to Summit now, and you have that same vibe, same thing. You have Toby, though I don't think Dirt Coaster was doing as much like cool guided tours and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think Toby's going to take it to the Summit.
He's
going to take it to the next level, in all honesty. Like, he's taken the community and putting it on a bike for somebody that otherwise may not already be a part of the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if you just are learning or just getting on a bike, now you'll have the community aspect with it, and I think that's pretty rad.
Yeah, and he's working hard to make that happen, which is great. None of that's more evident than all the stuff he's done at Bochito, but if you listen to the podcast, you'll also find about all the other places he's helping to build trails, which we talked about, builds community, and I think that's all very important. And then shout out to another new sponsor, Build, Toot, and Ride joined up with us, and we're very happy to have them. I can personally vouch for, I've not bought a bike from them, but I can vouch for their service. I was having a lot of trouble up at Oak Mountain during bump and grind. And they were nice enough to sit down and work on everything with me and figure out what the problem was. Little did they know that I created new problems that they didn't know about.
On his own.
That we've talked about on this show before. That's what happens when you're not a mechanic. I have to take my bike to somebody else to fix. But luckily I had them. That said, if the service that he provided in that moment and the kindness that he showed me in that moment, if that is indicative of that company, then holy shit, you're in good hands. Especially if you're wanting, I think they're primarily intense. Yeah. We should probably know more about
Which is why we actually owe him money because the Todd bugged him so many times.
Yeah, no shit.
Shout out the Todd because he's an intense fanboy.
100%.
Intense fanboy on multiple levels.
And TLD stuff, Troy Design stuff too.
Yeah, he's super intense.
So with that, we're going to do a little prize pack. We have a hat somewhere.
It's right here in my
Is it really in your
region.
crotch?
Look
you
at
guys
this.
Can't see it.
Up,
Higher.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
It's a pretty sweet hat.
Beautiful. It is actually a New Era hat, which is a nice brand. I'm jealous. One size fits all. So there you go.
Yep, there it is. So I don't know how we're going to give away this hat. Maybe
We got to get some people. Nobody did anything for the summit thing.
I know.
Losers. Y'all are a
What
bunch
if
of
we
losers.
do? Let's just do. We'll put up a question, and we'll pick the best comment to it, whatever that question will be. I don't know.
How
what
about
it'll
we
be.
let
Yeah,
Bill Toon Ride pick the best answer?
yeah, and
There we
BTR
go.
will pick the best
We'll
answer
send it
from
over.
it.
We'll send it over to them and let them choose.
Yeah, we'll throw up a question, and then we'll let them vote on it, and one of you will receive a hat. We'll even ship it to you if we have to, because that's the kind of quality human beings we are,
Absolutely.
just like our sponsors. Anything else?
No, I'm just happy to have all of those lovely people aboard this ship.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet. That we wouldn't let sponsorship happen without believing in who they are. As
No,
people.
that's true.
And that's something that says a lot about them. As
You
a
hear
business.
that shit on a lot of podcasts,
I know,
though.
but it's
the
real.
reality of it is, for us, we are. I mean, there have been some other things that have come across the table we decided not to do just because it didn't make sense.
Because we're not sellouts.
Oh,
Unless
I'll
you got
sell
enough
out.
money.
Yeah, come on. I'll sell out right now. What am I selling? And who am I selling out? Let's go.
And for our next sponsor,
Yeah,
it is
right.
not Jack Link's beef jerky.
What, it'd be Slim Jims? I'll snap it to all of them.
Oh, can I be Macho Man?
Yes.
The dead version.
Oh, man. That is not even.
Hey, you should just be happy. I know. Well,
That
he
is a
isn't-
classic. You grew up with that. He's
know.
iconic.
It's even better with. If I can see
Yeah.
the WWE.
Yeah, WWE belts there.
That's great.
Yeah. So today on the show, it's not really a major breakthrough. I did think that I was thinking about it earlier. One of the things that we've been challenged with, I think, as part of having a podcast or any of this other stuff, is thinking back through. I try to think back through and think about all the times of what really worked, what didn't work, whether it was something that you tried like on a build or something that you tried with a group or whatever. And I was just kind of curious. I thought we'd play a little ping pong with a top three here, but going back and forth, maybe just throwing out the idea of what are the top three key things that stand out to you about, like, what it's basically like there's a question that they do a lot, like, what's your why,
Yeah.
bro?
If in sales.
Yeah, that is totally in sales. And so it is one of those, but instead of it just being what's your why, mine is like, what are the three reasons why? Like, what are three things that stand out to you for that? It's not just keeps you coming back, that are like, if they went away, you wouldn't be on a bike anymore. And the answer can't be bicycles. Nixon and Chase, who both said that smart ass comment at the same time in their heads, bicycles is already part of that, you assholes.
And I know that you're chasing.
You know,
like,
totally. And then Nixon's right behind him. He actually Nixon took a little sip of his. He was like
ciders.
a little hard cider. He's like, oh,
My bike. We love you guys.
yeah, we're just talking trash.
Can't wait for the
fun,
family reunion.
Yep.
So I am trying to think of the question, like
Yeah.
process it. And this sounds super, super cliche, super, super like low hanging fruit, but it's the honest truth. Like, if I didn't have a good group of friends to hang out with when I ride, I wouldn't be doing it. Like, just going by myself is refreshing. I like it, but I need people with me. Like, I need other validation of, hey, this trail is nice that you worked really hard on, or I need validation of like, this is fun, and the smiles of everyone.
So let's break. Like, we can say friends, but what is? I would say to subsect that in is to say, like, of that, validation is an important component.
Yeah,
of
maybe
friends.
that's
'Cause I
validation.
think friends is a big one, but
Right.
inside of that, we can both agree. We both agree friends.
Yeah.
And yours is validation.
Yeah, right. And I mean validation not just from a person that I know. Like, we've been getting validation about the podcast.
Oh,
and
it's
that's-
huge.
It's huge. It's like it's like fuel for our engine.
Well, it's funny because we brought it up. We were both talking about, like, when we say it's a slow season, it's more like being off season from a sport.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not that anything that we do is ever smaller or less, but like, we had just not seen a lot of interaction. We had not seen a lot of comments and stuff. And it was like, man, you need those in order to fuel the fire, which is my thing. Yours is validation,
Yeah.
and mine is stoke. Like,
Yeah.
I have to be around one of my favorite people, and he does not ride. He's not a Reb rider. I mean, he could be, but he doesn't want to spend the money. Is Don.
Yeah.
That dude we're riding the most flat, boring trails you've ever ridden in your life, and you just hear, if he's behind you,
Yeah.
you get sick.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a whip. I mean,
Yeah.
he's like, just throwing it out there. And it's funny, but at the same time, he constantly is sending positivity. It's the same way with Todd Hall before he got injured. Todd would be like, that's looking pretty good. He would just do that like.
And it's like, are you patronizing me right now?
And sometimes I couldn't tell, but in reality, I think it's that same thing. So it's to have that stoke of somebody just making sure that they validation, agreed. Stoke, I think, is crucial just because if you don't have, for me, if I don't have somebody that's like keeping the energy up, those days I don't feel like committing all the way, they're there for it. Or you become the stoke.
Right.
Because like I rode Sunday and I was just on fire. I don't know why. Like I've been having some health issues, but I was on fire. Like I had full energy and we just rode. And the energy was coming off of everybody, just stayed at peak the entire time. Everybody was like peaking out.
Is it fun, or do you feel like you have a responsibility as a leader of the community to, like, if you see everybody's moods kind of sour, to be like, hey, let's pick this up a little bit? Or like,
no, that's a good question.
Is it hard because people do look at you and I sometimes as like, hey, what are those guys are in a bad mood? This ride sucks. Or you know what I mean? Like we have to go in with do it feel like that ever?
No, 100% does. Like there's some times that I've gotten some wisdom from the soft member. Some of it is brutal business.
Yeah.
And I probably would have no employees if I listened to what he said.
But you'd be rich.
But I'd probably be loaded. But he, one of the things that he said is like and I do take it to heart. You have to care about the people you're riding with. Part of our job, if you assume a leadership role of any capacity, you have to, but you also can't try and please them. And I didn't understand what that meant, or I barely understood is what I was trying to say. I barely understood what that meant until I spent more time trying to, because you'll burn so much energy trying to please that one. And I'm not going to point out who it is, but in the past we had somebody that was just constantly down. And then after a while it was like, hey, treat everybody the same, keep the energy up, show this person love all the time. And now like one of my favorite human beings to be around in the world. Right. And you can see the shift. And then that person goes, even if they're having a shit day, I'm like, dude, listen to my shit day because we have camaraderie on that level. So to your point, I think it's more, instead of trying to expend the energy to please everybody, I would encourage it. I would think of it like, and it's the same thing. I would try and do like, I try and be the bridge. Right. Like if you can help bridge the gap between what shit they're dealing with, you don't need, I mean, sometimes you got to hear it. Sometimes you don't need to.
Sometimes you just go faster.
And sometimes that's the Nixon trick.
So I learned the same thing from the soft member early on in building Samba was like, don't try to get everybody on the bus, get people on the bus and seats and floor the bus. Right. And those people will either get on the bus or they won't.
Or they'll jump out.
And we've had more jump in than out. So it's been like that. And I think that's, to me, we're still on the why, right? I think that the why is like that, like make sure that the bus is rolling no matter what.
So right? I would argue that the why maybe for you then is, and collectively for me, is that you said friends earlier, which I agree, but inside of that we need the validation. I think the why is that we have to have community. Right. Right. And that community, and using that word is to say that like you have to have that combined element of like people who give a shit. They don't look. There are guys that ride with us that I don't ride as well as you. I'm okay with it. I ride how I ride. I don't give a shit. That's the one thing, right? But none of us, if you want to hang out with people that peck that and try and push you, then you find that tribe. Right. But what we found was the more we peck people, the less they were interested. Right. When we suddenly said, wait a second, this is just us hanging out. Because we were trying to push them. You can't push somebody to get where they are. No. They're going to get on the bus or not, to Alan's point. And so I think that community element of having, because from the community, I think you build friends. Right. But that community element is
well, the other thing, if you're building a community similar to ours that obviously has tons of different riding styles and types and people, definitely different types of people, but don't be afraid to reach outside of your little clique. Yeah. Right. I even made a shirt at one point that said, don't be a clique. Yeah. Like, make sure that you ask the XC dudes that are blowing by you on the trail. Like, if you have a chance to talk to them, very rarely will you. But if you do, introduce yourself. Say, hey, you guys are welcome to come hang out with us. You can have a group ride where there's an A group and a B group. Like, they can go off, and it helps them be a part of the community, too. And then, guess what? They care about the trails as much as you do because they're on them a lot as well. It's just hard to get them to be part of the community when they're there for workout. They work out. Like the XC
Well, it's
fast
interesting
guys are just to work out.
because that is part of my why is the
Yeah.
exercise component
Yeah.
of it. Like I have to have it. We've talked about this like in excess on this show.
yeah.
That for me personally, I can only speak to me. The mental health component of riding my bike is worth every bit of what I've put into my bikes,
Which is
even though
all of it encompassed, right?
that.
Like
For the most part,
every part of it.
there's times though that I need like alone rides.
No, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And lone runs and rides and trail
But
days.
see, the difference is, I think biking is not my sole only exercise, nor is it yours.
Right, yeah.
I think a mistake sometimes is if it's the only. I think part of the other why for me is it's part of a bigger training package as much as it is all those other pieces. Because if I just rode my bike, then I wouldn't always want to go do it just wouldn't work for me.
Right.
But the fact is I do other training in order to help benefit my bike riding, but in turn also so I don't get burned out on my bike.
Right.
So that when I ride, it feels special and there's all these other great. I think there's the vibe to that comes, and I think a lot of people resonate with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that at this point in our age bracket and the listeners' age brackets, like health is a huge aspect of it.
Yep.
Like I've always said this, like a group ride is just trick fucking your body into fitness.
Oh, for
to
sure.
be completely honest, because
sure.
a lot of those dudes out there and dudettes aren't there any other day than that.
Right.
So that's their only exercise of the week. And you have to be cognizant, like, hey, this is the only time they're going to get off the couch this week, but you should be encouraging of them getting off the couch this week.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
It was hard for me at first because in my world as an athlete, like the only way you get validated or respect in a world is to be better than everyone else.
Right.
Right. Like, so when I first started, it was let's get better. Let's get faster. And faster is not the only way to say you're better than other people, but like but
in fairness,
it's
in
a
our
metric.
area,
Yeah, right.
our metrics are limited.
Yeah.
Jumping the highest and furthest,
Right.
You can go the furthest, probably not going to have the highest. We don't
Exactly.
have so the furthest is being as fast on your pedal bike,
Right.
your Amish bike, because now people
Yeah.
can cheat. We've
Right.
seen it. You can cheat with an e-bike.
But I think that like the trying to like get above everybody else, it plateaus to a certain extent where then finally you're just like, fuck it, no one cares but me. Like
Yeah.
I'm the only one that cares. So like on the Tuesday night rides, we've been doing a fast loop. And I think that like on the next Tuesday night ride, I want to talk to the group before we leave and just say, hey, who wants to get a PR tonight? Like I want to help somebody get a PR. However I can, like whether it's ride behind you or in front of you and take turns leading you
Yep.
to make sure that you get a PR tonight, because the last few nights I've been going fast, like for my own fitness level, right? Where I've always said maybe a group ride's not the place for that. But I needed it, like so selfishly I did it on my own. But like now I want to help other people get their own PRs. And I think that seeing people just do a whole lap recently, they were excited about it.
Yeah.
And so if I could maybe use the things that I've learned from my very immature way of climbing the mountain bike ladder, I guess.
Yeah.
It was like a very like, is it cynical? Maybe that's not cynical. Ego driven. It was definitely ego driven.
Yeah.
But like, I need
Maniacal? Is that the-
maniacal, maybe. But it was like the only way that I could think. Like, how do people respect you? Like
Yeah.
how on a bike do people? Because a lot of people come to a parking lot and don't. If you have a community where this happens, do not discourage that person. But there's always going to be somebody that tries to validate their credibility in the mountain bike world with every single knowledge of all the parts on all the bikes.
Or they show up with 10 or 15 every week. They have a new bike.
Yes.
And the same vibe. Now, that is great for your LBS. I'm sure they're just like, I love this guy, but they cycle through them. And the reality of the situation is like, you can't bash them
No.
but probably they're feeling this. I would argue they're feeling a pressure that doesn't need to be there. They're feeling like, well, I'm not going to fit in. I'm not going to be as fast as these guys. I got to overcompensate. In reality, just go ride.
Right.
And don't drop somebody. Like purposely keep your speed down.
Yep.
It's so stupid. That goes back to Stoke. And then I swear to God, you'll be more validated at the end of it. And
Yeah.
it helps build your community. So even like just that conversation, I
Yeah.
just made that I love you sign. It's just Jimmy Fly smoking,
love
baby.
you too,
Just in that conversation, like just by doing that, you've literally given 3 whys to somebody that might need them.
Right.
And there's fitness inherently.
Right. Yeah, it's hard. Like I struggle with it because people tend to try to like push me faster sometimes. It's like, I don't want to do this, but
Right.
I also don't want to be the one that's like, all right, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
So it's like a
your challenge
conundrum.
is the old ego check.
Yeah, it is. It's so hard.
When you can conquer that ability to flip that switch, like,
so
because if you can just be like, not tonight,
Right.
then that person's like, oh, look at me, I beat Dale.
And
And
it's
let them build that up, let them build it up, build, and be like, oh, okay, we're riding, and then just flip it, and then it's just.
It's
gone
happened
girl.
before, and I've done it a few times, but it's like, but why? Why should that have to happen anywhere?
No,
like
doesn't
it shouldn't.
have to.
So that's kind of what we're saying is like, basically, just don't be a dick.
Oh, it comes down to the same thing. We say that a lot on the show, but it's a reality situation. It comes
really
down to the
is.
exact same thing. I think the reason I wanted to bring that up is again, we've had these great responses from people that have been finding their own whys and finding their own communities and building them out on their own, and that is huge. That is like, I'm telling you guys, that is like the fuel of fuel for us. And every single comment, every little bit helps, but that, like, especially, like, again, we ebb and flow. It gets quiet, and we start to hear crickets, and all we know is that Eric Hagen won some other fucking prize.
We love you, Eric.
We love you. Get well with your back thing. But like, it's that whole cycle. But when we get those little bursts, that means a ton. And so that does help. That's stoked for us, which in turn, hopefully we're just a funnel to push it back out. I think we're going to try and have more communities on. We've talked about that before. It's something we really want to do. We want to literally have, you may think you're boring as fuck, but I promise to you, there's something you're doing that's interesting. Like, every single time we've been like, all right, let's just see how this interview goes. We are like, man, that was a fucking great. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't expect all that great information or whatever it might be.
And every community has their own story or
Yeah.
their origin story or
Yeah.
where they're at and we all have the same characters of our story.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
you have your insides and your
ours
jokes.
are
and all
just
that.
from
Yeah.
the Philippines.
All named Juan. So that's part of it. Then, so that's the big thing, is like asking what it is. So again, we want to see. So thank you. I think we're both saying thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other half of it is, what is your why, in the sense of like, what is your why as a community? Our big element to touch back on them is, we both do. But I think everybody wants a little bit of validation. You want to, like, man, you're working hard, which leads to stoke. And then you're like, man, I'm feeling pretty good, which then makes your fitness perform better, right? Because now you're riding harder. And then inevitably it's going to happen when you're feeling good and you're hanging out and other people have helped you get there. It starts to build a community of friends, which sums it all up. That's kind of what we're saying. Everybody has those different elements. Find which one it is and where you guys are. If it's built on a competition, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Let it be built on competition. Just keep in mind, like, the people on the outside if you're trying to look for something else. That's all.
The other thing is, if you're part of a bike community and you only go the group ride and you get done and you leave right away, you're barely part of it.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of connections happen in the parking lot. A lot of business deals are done in the parking lot, or career opportunities, getting to meet people. Yeah. So if you can carve out an extra hour after a group ride just to talk to people and get to know some of the people better,
Or get there early too.
Yeah,
Either
or
way.
get there early, either one. But just to get to know each other and like learn who you are, learn who you're riding with, learn who you're going to battle with. To use like a very rude
And
term.
in fairness, learn who to avoid.
That's also very true.
I mean, social faux pas, it's real.
If somebody rolls up with headphones in, it's not because you're cool.
If somebody rolls up with a speaker on their bike,
Yeah, just wave because they don't want to talk to you.
yeah. There's that, and then I was gonna and we'll finish up the show pretty quick. I was gonna throw out there. I thought it was interesting. I was gonna get your take on this because I've got a couple issues with my Gorilla Gravity. There's no warranty support anymore. Blah blah blah. Some of it's easily fixed. I just haven't done it. But then I've been riding my e-bike more and really enjoying it. Not the e-bike part. I really love the way. And shout out to Chris T, who I trashed last week, according to him. He has a fantastic.
And just again,
Yeah, and now just again. Now everyone knows who it is. He has a fuel 20 whatever it is, the new fuel model, the bike of the year version, but it's like a 8 point something, whatever. His is nice.
it's really nice. I love it.
And it rides so well. The lines on it are gorgeous and it rides so well. So I have the e-bike equivalent. I've enjoyed riding. I wanted to get your feedback because one thing I've learned is it is fun for me to go uphill and leave you guys.
Mm-hmm.
No offense.
Don't bother me.
It's a blast. But that was my question. Like, some people seem to get butthurt by this idea of like, oh, you just ride up the hill and leave me down here. And so I think that's where a lot of like e-bike hate comes in. And that's stupid. The dudes that are rutting your trails on like actual throttle bikes, that's a different story.
Right.
And the guys that never ride with you because they're douching on full blown, that's on them.
Mm-hmm.
But from an outside perspective, what is your take on like like this weekend's a prime example. Like I rode up to the top, I'd fuck around, ride down and around. Y'all would make it up to the top. I'm ready to go. I'll wait for as long as you need.
So I have the biggest ego out there,
Yeah.
and I wasn't bothered by it.
Right.
I mean, if I wanted to sprint, I can sprint too. Like,
Right.
I don't want to do that. It's stupid. But I think that the built-in, it's just like a thing that you can joke about, right? Like, well, some people do. It's always been the hate for e-bikes is because it was new and different, and a lot of people couldn't afford it.
Yep.
So what do you do? The easiest thing to do is hate it.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably the same thing that everybody said about full suspension when they came out. They're riding hardtail. Oh, you can ride those rocks because you're on full suspension. I'm sure those conversations happen.
The only person that knows that is going to be Nixon
Yeah, Nixon or Allen.
or Allen. Yeah. I mean, either one of them was in that was like in maybe the 40s.
At least the 40s.
I'm just getting him back.
But I think that I think there's, because I hear all the comments too. Like when you take off, like, oh, get out. Like I don't think I make them as much, but like I'll be like, where's Aaron? Like, why is he not like blown by me? And then he will.
But so what most people don't know is the truth is Aaron also has an e-bike. He hasn't like a badass fully unlocked.
Yeah.
Like he chipped his. He can go 30 or something.
Right.
But Aaron and I both like one of the best, greatest joys of e-biking is not that, oh, I'm not tired.
Right.
Because I get tired. Mm-hmm. I ride in trail most of the time. Is being able to blast up the hill, especially at the Reb, climb up the hill as fast as I can because it just keeps my energy up.
Plus,
all I'm doing is
fun
keeping
at
my
the
heart rate
top.
up. Right.
Because you're coming back down.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I think, well, there's a lot of things. Either you can bitch about an e-bike or you can get in better shape.
Yeah, that's
Like
the
to
other
me,
side of it.
like that's my feeling about it.
the other
Like
side of it.
you can do as much not on an e-bike as you can on e-bike. You just have to commit to doing it.
And the argument of that e-bikes are taking away the shape. Yes, there are people that ride in full trail mode. If you're riding in that, I mean, not
Full
trail mode,
boost
but full
mode or
boost
something?
mode. If you're just full boosting the entire time, yeah, you're probably not going to get. I mean, you're burning some,
Yeah.
but not as much as others. But the reality of it is, if you know that that's what you're doing and you want to use it for extra, there's no reason not to. All you're doing is offsetting the weight.
Right.
Now I have maybe a little more response, it's like instant, but you're offsetting the weight. I don't know. I just think it's stupid.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know. I think it's stupid to bitch about it. Like honestly,
Yeah.
especially with a group of people. Like if you wouldn't do this, but if you were riding with one other person that was on an analog bike, you wouldn't just leave them at the bottom.
No.
So there's a group of people. It's fine. I don't see a problem with it. Plus, where we're riding, we can see the top almost. You know, so it's not like you're out there by yourself for an half hour.
And that's the same thing. It's like, if you're pedaling with other folks, I think it comes down to the whys of the other conversation is you being considerate of the other people. I just thought it was an interesting, I see a lot of like
I hear the
spewing it back and
comments too.
forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then a couple of jabs, get a tow rope. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I mean, sure, I'll burn my battery out. And then, then what do you
Some
want me
of
to
it,
do?
I think, is just like they feel like they have to say something about it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, wait, yeah, I'll be up there in a while because I'm pedaling. Like you're pedaling too. I don't get it. I don't get it.
It's
But
the same gimmick.
I mean, I don't know. I'm also the guy that drops everybody on group rides. So
So I guess the point of the whole bit of that conversation was just to say, for me, was just to get your take on it. I just think it's interesting. A lot of times that leads into that same level of segmentation that we're just saying is like so brutal. Is like, for example, I can't hang with Alan on a ride. Alan's going to have to make a decision to ride with me.
Right.
I can't ride with Alan, right?
Yeah.
Because he's going to leave me. At his natural cadence, he's
No.
going to leave me.
he's also gonna try to
That's
leave you.
fair enough.
Like that is
enough.
that's his like
But same way with what's the other super fast guy?
Brian.
You ain't. He's gonna ride with you, and that's cool.
And he does sometimes.
Yeah.
In fairness,
Yeah.
on his fifth lap.
Right. When he's like a little bit gassed, just a little bit.
Yeah. But I mean, I've always like thrived on bridging the gap between those guys and us.
Yeah.
Like, cause we're the derelicts of the group, right?
Yeah.
Like, not really, but in theory, and they're the avid cyclist when we all are.
But the funny part is, it goes back to all this stuff together. Is the derelicts, those of us that are like, hey, we're out riding our bikes,
The
having a
ones
good time.
creating the stoke.
We create the stoke. We have the community, and then they want to be a part of it. Even if they only just a taste, they'll just
Right.
dip their toe in, and maybe it's too much for them.
Right.
Because it is intense. No
Yeah.
bike pun intended.
Build, tune, ride for all your intense needs.
Yeah, there it is. But like it is, and so maybe they just dip their toe in and they're like, oh man, these guys are nuts.
Well, also to be fair, they're in their
fair.
underwear out
That's
on the
true.
bike trails, so they got to hurry up and get to their car. And like it's kind of awkward to stand around with tap shoes on and underwear in
It
the
is-
parking lot.
It is the weirdest.
It is a weird thing.
That is a weird. If there is any moment to make fun of the masculinity of biking,
It's in the parking lot.
it is in the parking lot.
You
with
got
dudes,
bibs on, dude? What are you doing?
grown men wearing bibs, just clicky clack, tap dancing their way to their cars.
Like slipping, sliding on the rocks.
So,
You just rode 12 miles in the mountain bike trails. Now you're gonna fall down the parking lot in your underwear. Cool.
yeah, no, brutal stuff. All right, well, I think that's going to do it. Look for the question. You can follow us on all the social media channels at Ride the Rebellion. Look for the question. It'll probably be in Facebook, I imagine.
Let's put it on the podcast group. Force you fools to join it,
Yep. If you want
because
to,
that's where we're gonna start putting stuff.
that's where it's supposed to be. We need to
Yep.
do another shirt. We haven't done a cool
No,
shirt.
I've been
in a while.
asked about that. I was trying to get all the other ones out to people.
Yeah.
Making sure I didn't
Trigger
have a
pickle. Maybe that's what it was.
Trigger pickle. It's a pretty good. That's a trail
Pickle
name.
trigger. That's it. A pickle trigger.
That's a good trail name.
Yeah.
Good dick pun intended.
I mean, it totally works. It just was inappropriate when I said it to an employee. It happened to be a female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't know.
She
Maybe.
doesn't care.
No, she doesn't care. That's
She
right.
literally doesn't care. She's married to a woman. She does not care.
Yeah. She has no trigger pickles.
Okay. I can't comment on that because I will get sued.
Oh well.
Yeah. So again, thanks for hanging out with us. Thank you for the stoke you've been giving back to us. We're always here. Again, the last little bit, we want to find other communities. So it doesn't matter. I don't need a community leader. I just need a person from the community. If you happen to be the leader, sweet. Please hit us up. We'd love to have a conversation. We know where some of you are. We're going to hit you up.
If you hit us up fast enough, you might get an invite.
Yeah, that's right. Because Jank Fest is happening. Come hell or high water.
Maybe high water, but hopefully we need some freaking rain. It's so dry.
It's supposed to rain Friday.
Woo.
40%.
That's like nothing. That's a still keep the Jeep top off weather.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for the show. Oh, wait. I got to tell one quick story. We are laughing because I'm working on a project right now. If you guys remember the early segment years ago, we used to have Star Wars. Is it Star Wars or is it
man.
Star Trek? And we're working on a project right now, and Mark Hamill is in the project. And we were laughing on set the other day because Dale knows who none of these celebrities are that we have to interview.
Zero.
And he has no idea. And I mean, they're big. They're like, most of them are from Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff. None of them are Chris
The
Pratt.
Avengers and
Yeah, and the Avengers and Loki. And it was Loki. We
Yeah.
interviewed Loki. But Dale's sitting there and he's like, we were laughing that Mark Hamill shows up. And of course, I'm giddy because you guys know on this podcast, I love Star Wars. And Mark Hamill shows up and it's like, Mr. Hamill, it's nice to meet you. And then he just starts talking to Dale. And Dale's like, man, I loved you in that Star Trek. Which, who was your favorite captain or some Star Trek
like
reference?
Mr. Dr. Spock.
Yeah, like what was it like working with Dr. Spock? Just burning it down, because that's how we roll.
That would be the best interview that you've ever heard that you'll never hear.
He would probably appreciate it.
He probably would.
Yeah.
I'd be like, cool, dude. Lightsabers. Can you suck on them?
We saw him today, like we met him today for the first time, and I was so glad you weren't there. That there was a Star Wars fan with me because he's a little.
yeah, he
he's-
was actually
He's
like-
not as tall as I thought he was.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was able to turn to Patty, the guy that works for us now. I was like, Patty, look, there's Mark Hamill. He's like, oh, there he is. And I was like, he's a little short for a stormtrooper, which is a line from Star Wars. And Patty knew exactly.
I would have been like, yeah, he's a little small. Did you
Yeah,
get on
he
a
would have
ladder
no
to talk
idea.
to Darth
Everybody's small to me. I'm Dale Boy.
Vader? I should be Darth Vader. I'm big. A little intimidating.
I wish I could have that as a clip. I gotta figure out how to make that into an audio GIF,
Wow.
a GIF,
Jiffy. I don't
Jiffy, a Jiffy,
know. Pickle envy. Whatever.
pickle and trigger pickle.
Yeah.
All right, well that's
We're going to take Trigger Pickle down to law firm, down to Shit the Bed Fred and Just the Tip, and then we're going to end down at Schitt's Creek. That's our trail.
Those are
That's how it talks. That's like the cadence at the
the
top.
best is when somebody comes out there and rides and doesn't know any of them, but has been riding out there long enough they should have.
The
And
Todd
half
the
the
other
trails,
day.
the Todd, half the trails are named after his jokes, and he doesn't even know 'em.
He doesn't have a clue, which makes it better.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, with that being said, we'll close out the show. And just remember what Dale Boyd says.
What is going on here?
Jack Fast!